Such a beautiful rainbow. And the rain. Hello and welcome back to Kim's Cozy Corner. I'm Kim and it is the 4th of July weekend. So basically a long weekend for me. The issue that I have is that it's supposed to rain off and on pretty much every day this weekend. So it is early Saturday morning. It's about 6:30, 6:15. Don't have my watch on. But I am outside. We just got a little bit of rain. More rain's on the way. But I am going to be in and out all day trying to get things done in between the rain showers. And I figured I'll just bring you along every time I get a chance to get outside. But let's start with this amazing view of a rainbow. It's almost a double rainbow. Let me show you. Look at that. The rainbow over, and you probably can't see it, but there's a remnants of a second rainbow, but it's gorgeous as the clouds are starting to break between rain showers today. So the first thing that we're going to do is show you my side garden. I've only shown it to you once, and this is the garden on the west side of my house, so it gets evening sun. It's that hot sun. Haven't seen it yet today, hopefully. There are no issues from the storms last night, but let's go check that out. So this right here is my mashed potato winter squash. It is huge, it's healthy, it's full, looks awesome. And this right here is my buttercup squash, and it's dying back, and I don't know what's going on with it. I think the container may have dried out a couple of times too many. It may need some fertilizer, not 100% sure, but it has vined all over the place, along with my Australian butter squash, which is right here. I have vines everywhere. This right here is one of the little buttercup squash. This is one of the Australian butter squash. And when I say these two plants have vined everywhere, let's see if I can get back here and show you. There's some thunder in the background as the storm's moving off. But you see this vine here? This is the buttercup squash vining way over there from the plant there. This container is where I separated out. I believe I had 8 cantaloupes in here where I just threw a whole bunch of seeds in and just let them go. I've removed all but 2 plants, and it really should only be 1 plant in this pot here, but all but 2, and this thing has taken off. And I'm starting to get little places where they want to think about flowering, so we will see what happens with this plant. Now this was supposed to be my watermelon plant. That doesn't look like a watermelon. If you know your plants, that's a tomato plant. And I know I love tomatoes, but I didn't do this on purpose. So I must have reused some seed starting mix that had tomatoes that didn't germinate, because I only threw in watermelon seeds into this pot. And the only thing, well, there's a teeny little watermelon back there. And there's a little one here in the front. Let's see if I can get the tomato plant out the way so you can see it. And it doesn't look too good because it's being shaded out by a tomato plant. And of course, I love tomatoes. So we're going to let that plant be. And we're going to let that tomato plant do its thing. I guess you can see I never put the mulch down. I got the paper down, but no mulch. Look at that plant right there. I started those from seed. Look how pretty that is. Look at that. Okay, I can't stand a whole bunch of time out here doing this. I got tasks. I got work to do today. But this is some rhubarb and grass and a whole bunch of other things that don't belong. And then I have rhubarb here as well. But this is what I call my side garden. And I don't know, I believe that storm is headed back this way. There's the rainbow. All right, let me shut this off, run in the house. It's starting to rain. We will wait for the rain to clear and I'll come back and we will start getting some tasks done. Well, the rain has started again. As soon as I got out here and I got my camera set up, the rain came again. But I am going to try to quickly at least harvest some herbs so I can at least get those in my dehydrator. So I'm going to try to keep you in a shaded area as I go to try to harvest some of those herbs. So let's go do that next. So let's grab some of this basil as I'm in the rain here. And of course, it's raining harder and harder because I want to be out here. Before, it was one drip every few minutes or so. Now it's like really coming down and I'm going to get soaked. All right, let's move you completely out the rain here and see if I can harvest a few more herbs on my patio. Okay, it's raining, but not really that hard, and I have you up under a tree. I am going to try to harvest some of the herbs here before I get completely drenched. And this is oregano, so we will cut it all the way back. And let's do some of this parsley. Oh my goodness, I am getting soaked. And let's do some rosemary. At least this gives me something I can work on while it's raining outside. This part of the video shows what I picked while I was outside. There are many different types of herbs in this container here, and this is the first step prior to washing all of my herbs. So the next thing I did was put all of them in the sink, gave them a good washing just to make sure there were no bugs left over on them, and I added them to my dehydrating trays. So these pictures here are just showing them getting ready to go into the dehydrator. This is my dehydrator. It has room for 9 trays, but I space them out and only use the trays that I need. Once I get the tray full, single layer, I push them in and I put the door on, and it doesn't seal, it just kind of sits right there on top. It says that I need to dehydrate the herbs at 105 degrees. And so I turn the temperature up to 105 degrees and I let it go for about 8 hours. The rain never seemed to end. It rained for so long, I had to find other things to do indoors while I waited. Back to preserving. So I decided to work on some of the celery that I had on hand. I had already washed the celery and cut it up into smaller pieces, and I decided to go ahead and put them in my vacuum sealer. I'm putting them in 1 and 2 cup portions, so when I'm ready to pull it out, it's already measured for me. I was able to pull together a couple of different bags here with what I had left over. The leaves, I actually dehydrated the leaves, and these are the stems that I'm actually vacuum sealing and putting them in my freezer for later use. Okay, the sun is out. The rain has eased up for a couple of hours, but it rained hard for a very long time. So it's very wet out here. So I am having to change my plans a little bit, and I'm only picking what I have to pick today because it's just so wet out here. I had standing water 30 minutes ago, but now all the water has subsided. So we're going to focus on beans and squash. And that's going to be our goal today, for the rest of the day anyway, before the rain comes back. So I have this big bowl here that I purchased to help me with my kimchi. because I made kimchi last week, which I'll eventually get that video edited. And this bowl is perfect for harvesting and just throwing it all in at one time. So that is going to be my plan today, is to harvest quickly. I am going to harvest some more cabbage though, because now I am going to try my hand at making some sauerkraut as well. And I do have sauerkraut recipes, but let me move quickly through this task here because it's hot, it's humid, and with it being this hot and humid, I'm sure the rain that's coming, this next round of showers, are going to be thunderstorms as well, because that's what we had this morning. So I want to move quickly.
Got a good looking garden going there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see you've been at this for a while.
I have. Thank you.
Some beans here.
These are beans, and well, I have everything, but right now I'm picking beans.
Okay.
And but I have it all. Name it.
I see. It just seems to keep growing.
It does. So you've seen it every year.
I've seen it from the conception to now. And I tell you, like I said, it's very, very impressive.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to see that's your hobby and you enjoy it so much.
It is. I tell you, I have a stressful job.
Okay.
And so when I get to come home and play in my garden,
Kick back, it's happy.
it is.
Well, enjoy yourself.
Thank you. Same to you. So one of the things that happens when I am out in the garden, whether I'm harvesting or fertilizing or just, typical garden maintenance, or if my mother's cutting grass, we constantly get stopped and asked about the garden, how we set it up, how are we doing it, how did we learn the skill. And I like to take those couple of minutes and talk to the neighbors and hopefully encourage them to have their own gardens as well. So any type of person who stops and asks questions, I try to give them as much information as I can, because you never know who you're encouraging. And I mean, I don't know all my neighbors. I just see them walking through the neighborhood, walking their dogs or exercising, but they will quite often stop to have that conversation, which I think is pretty cool. So the ones in the bottom have been giving for over a month, and in the bottom two tiers. The top two tiers are just now starting to come in super heavy. Man, these things look so good. So I've moved over to another area. This is where my dragon tongue beans are. The dragon tongue beans are actually kind of big. Kind of waited a little too long on some of these. But that's okay. I can shell them and eat the beans inside for the ones that are too big. But for the most part, I think they're looking okay. Just a couple of them that we probably missed the last time we picked. So we have beans and tomato plants and eggplants in this particular bed. The eggplants were intentional. The green beans were intentional. But the tomato plant was not. A little bit more in my garden, and I'm going to have to call green beans a perennial because they come back every year. I'm joking. Green beans are not perennials. I don't want anyone out there to think that I believe that. Green beans are not perennials, but they love to self-sow from tomatoes that fall and animals that pick tomatoes off and leave the seeds behind, and they always come back. I am now picking my pole beans, and apparently some peas as well. They're looking pretty good. Look at that. The thing about pole beans is they're up high. You don't have to get down on the ground. Pick from a standing position. Now, I believe these are Blue Lake pole beans, I believe, is what I planted. Now the difference between a pole bean and a bush bean is that pole beans will keep giving all year long as the plants stay healthy, where bush beans are going to put all of their beans on in a few weeks of each other, and then they're going to kind of give out on you. So the length of time to harvest is very short in comparison to a pole bean. Pole beans usually take longer to be ready to harvest, but once they start, they don't stop. And I'm growing pole beans on my arch trellis, and I'm so excited about it. This is my first year for the arch trellis. And if you're interested in doing one of these, it's just cattle panel. And I have a video that I talk through the process of how I built this trellis. And this arch in the garden, and I'll never look back. It's amazing. I wish I had places for a few more, but I really don't. Not the way my garden's designed, but I love it. I love it. And the shading on this side, and on the back side over here, I'm growing winter squash up it. So hopefully it'll eventually fill in on the other side as well. I have peas climbing the trellis as well. I didn't know my pea plants were going to get this tall. They didn't get this tall last year, but it is a different variety. But they're doing really, really well. I guess we're going to have stir fry again tonight. So there's just so many peas here. The ones down here on the end look like they were trying to die off. So that would have been a good run for them. Now it's time for me to go work on the squash. And I have squash spread out throughout the garden, so I'm going to leave the container here and I'll just keep coming back. I am also harvesting my first little baby head of cauliflower. And the only reason I'm harvesting this one is because it looks like they're starting to separate, and you don't want the head to separate. It's nice and firm on the inside, but the outside looks like there's a little bit of separation. So we're going to go ahead and harvest just this one. We won't harvest the rest of them. Just a little bit of broccoli. Here's a round summer squash. Might as well get the broccoli. Cucumbers are starting to come in slowly. The last couple of days it's been 90 degrees, and broccoli does not like warm weather. But I am going to keep cutting on it as long as I can. I said I was only going to get squash and beans, but I remembered there is one pepper on here, one sweet pepper that's ready to harvest, and it's right here. I have one purple bell pepper that's ready to harvest. We will add that to our salad. Now, if I wanted green bell peppers, there are green bells in here. You can pick them really at any time, but I am not ready to pick those. All right, let's go get the rest of this squash. Look at those. So these are two different kinds of round summer squash. More of my Cocozelle or Cocozelle or something like that. It's an Italian summer squash. And I haven't even made it over to my neighbors to see how the squash is doing over there, but that's another day. Wow, look at the size of that one. Almost waited too long. Now, I wanted to do a few more containers of potatoes like I have over here. They've already died back. They could be harvested, but I just don't have time to get all of that in before the weather changes on me. So we will make the potato harvest a separate video, but let me bring you in and show you just how much they've died back. You can see everything down on this end is completely yellow, if it's not completely brown, leaning over. It won't even stand up anymore. Some of them are so yellow that there's about another 8 containers in here that I will be harvesting in one of the next videos. I have 2 heads of Napa cabbage left, and they are ready to go to seed. They're getting ready to flower right up the center. This one actually had a small flower right up the center. I just cut it right out. But we're going to go ahead and take both of these heads, and we're going to call it for the season on Napa cabbage. So let's pull these outside leaves off. We are planning, the plan is to make sauerkraut and another batch of kimchi. So there's one. I'm going to leave these leaves right here to keep weeds from coming up until I get ready to replant this space. And let's get the other one out. My 2 Napa cabbages. Nice little pickling cucumber there that I'm not going to pickle. I'm going to eat it in my salad. See if we got any others that are close. So I do like to make pickles with my cucumbers, but that's only after I've gotten my fill. And so fresh salads are always going to come before pickles. Just want to make sure I'm not missing any. There's another, but I'm going to leave it, let it get a little bigger. Okay. And there's another one that's almost ready. Okay. Okay. We are going to call it a day. This is our harvest for today. Now, I've already harvested all of my herbs earlier this morning, and this is what I'm harvesting now before the weather changes on me. We're going to make a delicious dinner out of what you see here, as well as starting to freeze and can, but I like to freeze it first till I get a big enough batch. Thank you for joining me. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I will keep the videos coming. Thank you, and until next time, have a great day. Bye.